Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to the Regenesis Talks. Today, we are joined by Mr. Thomas Wells, Mr. Prem Kumar. We are going to talk on how to elevate yourself as a manager, executive, and director in 2024. Hello, Thomas. Good to talk with you again.
Hello, VJ. Great to talk with you.
Hi Vijay, hi Thomas. Good to see you back.
Thank you for joining us today. My first question is how to elevate yourself? What do you mean? And who are you talking to?
Thank you, VJ. As usual, a very good opening question to make me clarify uh, exactly where I'm coming from and going to in this session. It is a bit of a multi-dimensional question that we've posed here. So where I'd like to start is, it is estimated that there are between 70 million and 700 million managers, executives, and directors in the world. And that would include leaders of every kind, of every little team and group, and not-for-profit, as well as managers and executives and directors in commercial organizations, team leaders, supervisors, and also at the higher level, it would also include people like chief execs. So there's a lot of people in the world have this kind of role where they are responsible for other people and other resources. So if we take all those people as a massive group, between us all, we decide pretty much how much all of the world's resources, the human resources, the financial resources, the material resources, equipment, the buildings, the assets, the environmental resources are used every single day, now and into the future. That's a massive collective responsibility. And also it has massive importance for the world, for countries, for societies, for cities, for towns, wherever you go, the businesses and the organizations are the organs, if you like, of wealth creation and for providing the fundamentals, if they're public services, for providing the fundamentals on which we all depend for our survival. So, given that I've spent my life's work in management, and I believe in managers and their role profoundly, and see its importance, it is vital, in my opinion, that as far as I and we are able, that we share with every one of these people who are in that role the best knowledge we have about how to make their jobs as easy, as impactful, and as good for the future as we can. So that's, I think, what I mean by elevate is how do we lift ourselves up fully into what is possible in that role, in that privileged position of being whichever version of manager or executive or director that you are in the world.
Yeah, got it, Thomas. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Thomas. How do we do this, Thomas? That's a big project, right?
Okay, for sure. And, I'm not, probably as you realize, not one for setting one's sights too low. But I think because of this reason and because of the importance of the role, and because as far as I can see from where I sit in my lifetime, the relevance and the contribution of managers has waned, has diminished, it's decreased in some way, that has taken away from the true value that we, well, in all our different guises, in all our different versions of manager, can contribute to the world. And so we're actually giving less now than is needed right at this moment. As we can see from the state of things, we haven't got by any means, we're nowhere near having most of it right. I think in some respects, we were doing a better job of some things in the past. Obviously, technology and advances have enabled us to do a better job of some things now, but along the way, we've dropped out some essentials. And as a result, the balance of enjoyment of life in the world, the number of people who are confidently able to depend on a good environment and good food and good health and happiness and a good life, that balance is still not right. We've still got more work to do. And this is almost a bit of a clarion call to managers, executives, and all the other versions of our role into a bit more action. Can we do a better job in preparing and managing towards the future? And for this reason, next week, for the first time ever, we're going to do a full-on video format for this broadcast. We're beginning to go there this week. You'll see this is a more video format for this week's podcast. But next week, we'll be aiming to show you, for the first time ever, as a manager, executive, and director, a system of regenesis and how you can use that to recreate yourselves in your role, whatever that is, supervisors, team leaders, managers, executives, directors, or through your organizations and through your organizations as owners, founders, MDs, CEOs, COOs, HRDs or FDs, or the myriad of other roles that influences the running of organization. The end result of this is that you as a person listening and watching will hopefully gain some really powerful new insights, how to recreate yourself. And it's noticeable. We've just had a conversation about the title of this as a series of broadcasts. We've called this Regenesis because it's about rebirth, it's about renewal, it's about reinvention. It's all the dimensions of the variations of that word in one. So Regenesis is about that renewal. It's about that rebirth for yourself and your organization at a higher level. For some people, they'll be returning more to what they used to be. For others, they'll be growing into all that they could become.
Yourself and your organization at a higher level. Thomas, why is it so important for the people to know about this now?
Okay. So, well, for those who are ready, and it may well be you, the listener, uh, you will have the opportunity to join a whole year of training and supported action. So you can do that job of reinventing, repairing, reinvigorating, regenerating yourself and hopefully the organization around you to a whole new level. That's the end game that we're aiming for with this series of podcasts. And we'd like to share this with as many people in that manager, executive, leadership role as possible. The end game for you personally is probably you will see your personal value increase by 2 to 4 times and more. That would be a reasonable goal, I think, over the lifetime of using this Regenesis system of Regenesis. And by adding at least 20% to bottom lines in 2024, whilst taking back more of your time and taking your life itself on to the next level, where you are, how you view it. Next week is a gateway for people to gain access, those who are ready for a 2024 takeoff, because it is the end of the year. This year, we're opening up a 2024 founders group for the people who most want to access the system of Regenesis right now for themselves and for their organization. This opportunity is for those who are passionate enough for a better future and focused enough on that as a purpose. We will give them an unprecedented 97% discount on any costs associated with this. So we'll tell you more about this later today and how to get at that in the coming couple of weeks. But it is an important time of year. Obviously, the end of the year and the beginning of the next is an opportunity for all of us for some kind of renewal or rebirth or regenesis.
97% discount. That's an amazing information, Thomas.
Thank you, Thomas. So, what are the criteria for accessing this special group?
Well, suffice to say, as you hear from everything I've said so far, we believe purpose primarily and passion trumps all other motives. These people who have these this kind of focus, this purpose and passion, are the people we want to assist now, because they will go on not only to use this and make a difference themselves, but they will then be able to show others. And it's that passion that's infectious, and it's that purpose that gives the clarity to what needs to be done to everybody they encounter and have contact with. So who? Well, first of all, owners, founders, MDs, CEOs, COOs, HRDs, FDs, but really any manager, executive, director, supervisor, team leader, whatever your role, anybody who is willing to step up. And it might not be that they can step up right now, but they're willing to step up, and they're willing to keep their determination and enthusiasm going for the longer frame. What the research shows us is this. We're not by any means in clear water. So for startups, for instance, we know that 90% plus of all startups fail. And they fail most commonly just as they're about to grow and become massively successful. And the reason they fail is their system of management is not complete. There's gaps. And so it almost breaks. The system that would support the growth is not there. So the management functionality is not there. So it fails. So that's just startups. 90% plus actually fail. They don't make it. So we're talking less than 10% make it to a brighter future. So imagine all the lost ideas and all the lost passion and enthusiasm that's in there. And that's because of these gaps in management. We also know that in established organizations, the MSMEs, or just long-standing organizations that have been around a while, the average business only realizes 16 to 25% of their potential. I mean, this is a staggering figure. So this means that a huge amount of growth is possible for these organizations if only they can do things in a slightly different way, if only they could fill the gaps in their management functionality. Because if they were running the fullness of management, it's logically impossible for this to happen, because the fullness of management would ensure that the creativity and the innovation and the potential of the organization is properly unlocked. So there's another massive pull. So what this is saying to you as an individual manager or leader, or team leader, or supervisor, or director, any of these roles, is for sure you're surrounded by opportunities to create more value, to create more contribution to the organization, to help it move forward and grow and expand its contribution to the world. So for every one of us, and you might think, well, okay, in the big organizations, surely that doesn't apply, but it does. And even in huge public service companies that are part of government, the same problems exist. It's no better there. But the size and scale and the numbers in these huge corporates and these bigger organizations make these problems much harder to see, because the profits seem vast when you're talking about a big organization, but at a percentage rate, they're not very high and they're not very good. And it makes even big organizations sometimes very unstable. And for sure in public services, the world has gone through a whole round of cost cutting and almost diminishing the contribution that public services should be making, given the taxes that we all pay in all of our different countries. So this is all about the value and importance of the whole of the management body in whatever your organization is, whether it's a tiny 2 or 3 person show, or whether it's a massive department with hundreds of people and maybe tens or hundreds of managers, or even thousands or tens of thousands of people if it's a very large organization. This is all about how valuable the management body is and how much contribution it is currently making right now. And what the system of Regenesis is a very quick and efficient way to fix the gaps and enable the organization and its people to begin to be much more of all they're capable of being and to grow to the optimum size that they're meant to be if they were in the fullness of their presence in the world.
Thomas, you said startups 90% fail as they start to grow. I'm curious, is this system of regenesis fed in top down or bottom up?
Well, Vijay, it's both. It's about the individual supervisors, team leaders, managers, executives, and so on. And it's vital that there is granular change at that level. They must be empowered to do the fullness of their role, to create all the value they're truly capable of creating, even if right now they don't know how to do that. I've spent just about 40 years in management showing managers how to unlock their potential. I didn't know it all at the beginning, but over the years, because I've worked with so many managers, I've worked with more than 8,000 people and hundreds of organizations, in fact, thousands of organizations and hundreds of boards. I've got a much stronger and clearer view. I didn't invent it. It's not from me. It's through me. It's not of me. It's through me. It's from all these people that I've worked with that we've been able to pull together this system of regenesis and make it much, much simpler and quicker to use. So it is both. So it's about equipping the managers in something they can get their head around in about 2 hours. But as with all management, you can't learn management. You have to do management to know it. So they will need support for about a year whilst they deploy it, they apply it in their situation in a way that's suited to them as a person. Every manager, every person is different, of course, and every situation in which a manager is working is different. So it takes a little time. The system of regenesis is both top down and can certainly be applied by an organization and bottom up. But obviously, each of those has a different application, but it ends up in the same place. It ends up reinventing, rebirthing, causing a regenesis in the whole organization. Sure, from the top down is still all about managers and the people at the front line in the roles, in the executive roles, and that of course, but it works when you're also working from the individual into their own organization. In fact, it is bi-directional. That it is bi-directional is imperative. You see, the system of regenesis is one, it's an intervention, and it's to change the pattern of behavior. Number two, it's a fractal. It's taken management and reduced it to its smallest irreducible fundamental components to be certain that we're all working from the same bedrock and that it works. And three, once you start using it, even if one person starts using it, it is self-propagating. It can't help but spread into the environment. It's beneficial in the environment and in the organization in which it is present. And quite quickly, it'll start to entrain the activities of multiple managers and multiply the results that are available to an organization. So what I'm saying is the more instances of regenesis, i.e. the number of managers or executives or whatever, that you start with, the faster your regenesis can proceed. And the research from all the leading universities and research houses shows us clearly annual cycles in key areas of focus multiply results. They eliminate gaps and problems and open up opportunities. And that unlocks a huge amount of potential and wealth for the organization.
You talked about opportunities, eliminating gaps, and open up for problems to get opportunities. That's a real insight, Thomas. So, if managers and organization participate, how will this play out?
This is all about being enabled to go the extra mile. And wherever you are, it's the person that sees what other people can't see, can grasp the opportunity that other people have missed. That's where the possibilities and the opportunities come from. But that happens for all of us every day. We could see if we had processes which stimulated our perception and our imagination in ways that would cause us to really take notice of the world around us. It's about being able to intervene to change your own as a viewer of the world and other people's behaviors and perceptions. So it is very much as a process, as I said earlier. Regenesis is an intervention to cause people to do the things that create the results required. And the results required is a better future, more contribution to the organization, more value in the world, and without consuming the planet. At the moment, a little bit, we've got a lot of things out of balance. And one of them perhaps is that we're eating the planet at a rate, or not just eating it, but consuming it. We're using its resources, its minerals in a way that's not sustainable, many observers are saying. And the key is to have a whole system of transformational support whilst you as a manager, leader, executive grapple with the day-to-day issues and think about what you're doing at a much deeper level, or at a much higher level, if you like, for you and your organization. So more about this next week, because but once you're in the Regenesis, the system of Regenesis for that year of uptake, every month in week 2, you get what we call a teaching. In other words, we'll introduce to you and tell you about a new area of focus. We'll explain the fundamentals that exist within it. In week 3, then you get a coaching to help you take whatever bigger or lesser, smaller action might be appropriate in your situation and in your way. And then every weekday, we provide a resource time, a Q&A support, a live Q&A support system. So if you've got questions, you can bring them into the support group and get answers from the leaders of Regenesis or from other colleagues, because knowledge will quickly build across all the managers and leaders. My experience is over time, there's a fundamental equalness between all human beings, but certainly amongst all managers and leaders, we're all capable of bringing unique insights, and this fundamental equalness to all our human worth. And so in that kind of Q&A system and in that community of support, you also get access to an entire online learning system, of which that is a part. So you can access the kind of raw materials of Regenesis as you go. So the year plays out month by month. And as I've mentioned before in these talks, in 3 main blocks. Our first area of focus will be to align people. Our second area of focus will be to maximize the flow of productivity within the organization. And then finally, when everything's in a good place and in a good state and well-resourced and ready to grow, we can then catalyze the growth and expansion that is undoubtedly possible for the organization. And the goal here is to create a massively simpler, massively quicker, massively more powerful way to find and fix the hidden gaps, blighting manager, executive, director, team leader, whatever quality of life. The upshot is you'll be looking to end the year in a very different place in terms of your potential, your reputation, the value you create, the way you communicate it, and the salary you attract. And the time and life you have begun to free out and refocus in your outer world. And hopefully that allows you as a human being just to be more for more people and do more for the future.
Yeah, Thomas, you said to create the goal, right? So massively simpler, massively quicker, massively more powerful way. So, Thomas, what are the goals and benefits for an organization?
Well, again, even at an organizational level, the organization itself will be disempowered and blighted in some way by the fact that it has gaps in its management system, rather than it being management behavior or management practice at an organizational level. It is a system of how it operates. And the first job is to find and fix the hidden gaps. I know with my colleagues where many of them are, because they're so common. that we can almost without doubt say most organizations will have this gap, because it's the piece of work in 35 years we've done more than any other with organizations when we were doing this face to face. Obviously now we're confident enough in the processes to let managers do this themselves. So find and fix the hidden gaps, also blighting organizations and blocking them from the organization being all they're capable of being. So this is why, on average, organizations are stuck between 16 to 25% of their potential. Well, imagine if you could unlock another 20% or another 30% of their potential. What would that look like? How much more would they be able to do? How much bigger would they be if that was appropriate? They may not be bigger, they might just do more and better. So there are many, many, many ways in which this benefits organizations. But here's a list of some that of the main headings. So you might expect the actions of managers, executives, and directors to be synchronized and mobilized so they work together much better. You might expect the pyramid of priorities to be reset so that it aligns with the organization's main mission and vision. And as a result of just getting people pulling together, the results actively uplifted. You might expect every employee to be refocused and remotivated to contribute more and to innovate more. You might expect then guided innovation to solve problems and open up opportunities that weren't visible before. You might expect friction and loss to be removed from core processes that waste resources, cost money and time. You might expect financial thinking to move from cost cutting to income creation as a norm everywhere, or to at least to be in balance between the two. You might expect inter-team and department function friction to be actively eliminated. So where silos in an organization don't quite work together, you'd expect that to be healed and sorted so they do work together really well and everybody benefits. Communications can be actively curated so that words equal actions and outcomes, which isn't always the case in organizations. Organizations' fitness to grow is reviewed and improved annually. The future that needs people with different skills in different places, in different numbers, that actually is created from the front line in and the bottom up, as opposed to top down, because often the top down ideas, they get it wrong, and it's not quite what's needed to truly be all that they're capable of being. And fractals of your organization are meshed into a coherent whole. So there's none of this kind of noise and friction that can go on in an organization that detracts from its functioning. So to get that much more harmonious and to put the customer at the top of the thinking and make sure you can secure real organic and, where necessary, structural growth of some kind. So they're just some of the benefits and gains.
Okay, so Thomas, what should people expect next week? Do they bring anything with them?
Well, thank you, Prem. That is an important question, and it is important to think about that. This is the first ever expose of the whole system of Regenesis. We've had it for many years, but we've never made it open and public for organizations and managers, executives, and directors to use proactively in their organization. Next week, I'll walk you through the whole of what happens in a year of Regenesis and what it will mean for you as an individual and your organization. There will also be details of how you can start right now to change your life, your work, and your organization or team, whichever it is that you manage and lead as a manager, executive director, but that you can be able to make a start right away this year. And crucially, how you can apply for a place in the 2024 cohort using this. Well, it's unbelievable to me, but it is there at 97% discount. We are so passionate about getting this out to as many people, good people to start as possible, that we've opened it up this way. It could be you give it as a gift to yourself. It could be you've got a bit of your 2023 budget left over to do something with, to do something wise with, hopefully, And this would be a great investment for the organization and for you as an individual manager and leader. I don't think anybody will look back after running through this program next year.
Thank you, Thomas. I believe this should be the very good gift for 2024. So, Thomas, anything super enthusiastic can do to get started right now?
I would say don't wait. Get in first, jump the queue, whatever you want to call it. It is going to be first come, first served. Obviously, not everybody is going to get into the program that applies, but most people will, I think. So if you're a super enthusiastic, if this has motivated and mobilized you inside yourself, don't wait. Book a call in my calendar and get advance approval. Numbers, unfortunately, are strictly limited by how many we can have on the monthly session. And there's nothing we can do about that. If it gets too big, it becomes unmanageable. So we have got an absolute upper limit. And for one lucky person, I am looking to give away the entire system of Regenesis, the 12-month program, the platform, the system, and all support starting in January 2024. If you've got 2 hours a month, a will to build a better future for you and your organization and other people, this is it. Once you've got it for life, and you can share it with others. And if you enter the word Regenesis in the comments below this video and this podcast, I'll send you the details of how to make that application and how to suss out whether A, you're going to get the free one, or whether B, you can get into the very restricted program. So my question would be, the preparation would be, who's interested? If it's you, then do make that step, do make that connection, and we'll do our best to get back to you as quickly as possible.
Sure, Thomas. Thank you for that. Anything else you would like to add, Thomas?
Well, tell all good people is what I would say. If you know managers and leaders, or even more senior people, or even great organization owners or CEOs, whoever you know, let's try and get a really great group of people. So tell everybody you know about next week's broadcast. Uh, this is really important, in my opinion. This, as I said, this is not of me; it's through me. I'm just the messenger. I've worked very hard to become the best messenger I can, and hopefully I've communicated to you today and touched your heart, your passion, and your kind of almost higher level responsibility to yourself and to your family and to the world. But really, I'm wanting those people that are ready now to step forward. The team leaders, the supervisors, the managers, executives and directors, the owners, founders, MDs, CEOs, COOs, the HRDs, the FDs, whoever it is that you know, try and get them to listen to next week's session and to respond quickly, because we really do want the best people in next year's cohort. As far as I can see, for everybody that comes, it will be the beginning of a new future. And I would just like to thank everybody that's listened to this for being here. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your graciousness for lending us your attention for the time of this podcast. And above all, for everybody listening, thank you for listening. And hopefully see you next week.
Thank you, Thomas, for your insights. And indeed, it is going to be the great year for the managers, executives, and directors. Thank you for that great offer. With this, we'd like to conclude the session. Thank you, Thomas, for joining us. Thank you, Prem, for joining us today. Thank you, audience, for listening to this podcast. See
Thank you,
you
everybody.
next week.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Vijay. We'll see you next week, Monday, the
Thank you,
18th,
Prem and Vijay. Really great.
18th at 7:30 IST. Let's join back and listen to Thomas on what he has to offer for next week. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.